Hey, everybody. Thanks for waiting. I really do appreciate it. You know, sometimes you can't start as early as you would like to. You all are really great. I'm really glad you waited for me. I really do appreciate it. One thing leads to another, and I've got family visiting, and here I am. So we're ready to have our late night conversation. Thank you all for being here. Let's have a good late night chat, shall we?
Of the American century. I say that the century on which we are entering can be and must be the century of the common man.
A radical redistribution of economic power.
I mean, we know that racism is just it's a byproduct of capitalism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people.
We need a government that will make sure Americans are taken care of and organize the economy to serve the people, not the profits of a wealthy few.
We now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty.
We got to start getting out there with the people.
Get out of the movement and get to the masses.
We need a government of action.
Welcome, everybody. So glad to be here with all of you tonight. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. We are going to have yet another one of our late night conversations. It is Saturday night. I'm here in my lovely Brooklyn apartment. And we are going to have a great chat this evening. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. For those of you who are not familiar with the format here, the way we do things is first I give my opening remarks about the news item or whatever else happens to be on my mind. Then from there, we do a roll call where we find out who is on the other side of the camera. I call you all out as I see you, names and locations. And then from there, I answer your super chat questions for the rest of the night. And often the second half of our show where I'm just answering people's questions is the best part. Often that, people get me going. I start answering, and that reminds me of anecdotes and stories. And that is really some of the best nights we have are when people just get me going with good questions. So if you've got something you want me to discuss in the second half of the program, if you have something that you think would make our show more entertaining, if you are here watching live and you want to send a Rumble rant on the Rumble, a Rockfin tip on the Rockfin, or a YouTube super chat on the YouTube, I would strongly encourage you to do so. That always makes it more entertaining. And like I said, I do thank you all for coming and sticking around because I'm started about an hour later than I thought I would start. Not a full hour later, but close to an hour. That's the way these things work. But I'm here. I am here. I'm in my lovely Brooklyn apartment. It's actually kind of it was a warm day here in New York City. I got some work done this afternoon. We just had a great Center for Political Innovation weekly membership meeting that was excellent. That was on Zoom this afternoon. I got a lot of very, very good things to talk to you all about. So it's going to be a great late night conversation. So a couple announcements before we get going here. Just so folks know, it looks like starting tomorrow, we're going to start posting the videos from the CPI National Convention, right? I've been talking with Peter Coffin and the other Peter and my good friend Peter here in New York. And between the two of them, it looks like tomorrow the videos will start surfacing. Which is very exciting. When you have multiple angles and different cameras and all of that, it can take a while to get things edited exactly as you like. But it looks like the videos are going to start going up soon. I'm very excited about that. So hold your horses, and that's going to be good. And in addition to that, there is a very big protest happening in Washington, D.C. on February 17th. I don't know if you all heard about the Rage Against the War Machine Coalition has decided that they are going to have another rally, a second rally. This will be Rage Against the War Machine 2. And the name of the rally is going to be Defeat the Deep State. It's the Rage Against the War Machine Coalition presents Defeat the Deep State. That looks like it's going to happen. And we at the Center for Political Innovation, we are 100% in support of Defeat the Deep State. I'm going to put the image on the screen. It's the People's Party, the Libertarian Party, and I think it's going to be a great rally. They've already got some good speakers who've been named for the rally. It's at the Lincoln Memorial, and it'll be on February 17th. So here, let me just put the image of it on the screen for you. Just trying to get the image here for you. It's going to be good. And we at CPI, we're going to endorse and we're going to attend. And we're doing something special for the rally. Not going to tell you what it is yet, but you will know. Defeat the Deep State, Rage Against the War Machine, Libertarian and People's Party, Defeat the Deep State, Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., February 17th, 2024. We are full endorsers. We are in the process of making our contribution to get our logo on the website. We are in full support. As you all know, Nick Brana, a good friend of CPI, has spoken at multiple CPI conferences and events that we've done. Also, Angela McCurdle of the Libertarian Party has come on this channel before. Good friend of ours, different obvious view. She's a libertarian. We are, 21st century socialists, city building tendency. But we're still going to endorse the rally because it's really, really an important event. So mark your calendar for February 17th. We are going to need help with our CPI activities that will be part of the march. So if you're a Center for Political Innovation member, we would appreciate if you would be able to, help us out with activities on the day. So if you're planning to come to DC for the February 17th rally, get in touch with CPI. We could use your help. And we're going to have kind of a meetup. General CPI meetup in the area afterwards. That's kind of the idea. It'll be a good day to go to the rally, and then afterwards we're gonna all get together and just kind of have a CPI hangout, a CPI meetup. That's kind of what our plan is, since so many of us plan to attend the rally. So that is happening on February 17th, and we at the Center for Political Innovation are in full support of this mobilization. Yeah. Wanted to let you know about that. There's that. Those are just my two announcements. And I see super chats are already rolling in. We've got 3 super chats that have come in already. Those super chats will be answered in the second half of the program. I do appreciate it. There's nothing yet on the Rumble, but you can do a Rumble rant. You can do a Rockfin tip. That's the way we do it. We'll be doing that in the second half of our program. So now, I guess I will begin my opening remarks. I'm going to talk to you about what's on my mind for tonight and our headline: gay porn filmed in the U.S. Capitol building. Yeah, that is the news story. For those who do not know the details, I will read you. A U.S. Senate staffer has been caught starring in an amateur gay porn video filmed on congressional property. Extremely graphic footage leaked online suggests. The scandal came to light on Friday in a report from the Daily Caller, which cited the video it had obtained. Footage shows the staffer wearing nothing but a jock strap, engaging in anal sex with an older man while on a table. The location was identified by the outlet as the Judiciary Room, located at the Hart Senate Office building. The outlet did not identify either the staffer or the other man, stating only that the video had been shared online in a private group for gay men in politics. The aide also reportedly posted obscene imagery on a now defunct public account on a social media platform on X, formerly known as Twitter, under the pseudonym Andre. Yeah, so there you have it. That is the state of our country. The congressional office buildings on Capitol Hill, where the U.S. legislature gathers and makes decisions, are now being used as the venues for pornographic films. Now, there's a couple things that come to mind. All right, I'm just going to tell you off the dome a few things that come to mind while I think of this. Number one, if you rent a space in order to make a movie, there's often a special fee for that. You know, if you rent a hotel room and you want to film something there, often you will have to get the permission of the hotel, and they charge you more for using their hotel space in your movie, right? If you rent a building and you're using it as the site for a movie, it's often very expensive. So my question is, do the men who made this film owe the U.S. Congress a special fee? Because I have a feeling that if Hollywood calls up the U.S. Congress and says, hey, we want to use the Senate office building for a movie, it ain't free. It ain't free. So that's my first question, right? You know, I mean, this looks to me like it's very expensive. Second, very important designation here. And I did not know this. I did not know this until Occupy Wall Street. I was part of Occupy Wall Street. You guys know Occupy Wall Street? That was years ago. It was, you know, I was like 23 years old. There were protests against the financial crisis. There were protests on Wall Street, near Wall Street in Zuccotti Park. People set up tents. I was part of it. I got arrested. I've got, you know, photo evidence. I was part of the infamous or famous Occupy Wall Street protests of 2011. Right? There's me. This was a photo of me. It says defend OWS. That's me. You know, that's one photo. One day during the bombing of Libya, we gathered and we had a banner that said Wall Street is War Street. You know, here I am. Here I am. That's me holding the banner there. If you can see me there, I'm holding one side of the banner with the pink sign over my face. Wall Street equals War Street. Yeah, you know, I was involved in the infamous Occupy Wall Street. Actually, here's a funny photo. You know, the first day of it on New York 1, they took a picture of me. I had a sign there. That's me holding a big sign. A job is a right. Capitalism doesn't work. Workers' World Party, which I was a member of. I very much represented the Workers' World Party in the Occupy Wall Street protests. I was part of Occupy Wall Street. That was back in the days of long hair Caleb, when I was a young man who had just moved to New York City from the Midwest. And thank you for the super chats. Glad that they're rolling in. Give me something to talk about in the second half of our show. Very appreciated. Keep them rolling. Keep them rolling. So anyhow, I was part of Occupy Wall Street. And after they raided the park, maybe people don't remember this, but after they raided the park, many of the occupiers who'd lived in the park, you know, they were kind of semi-homeless young people, right? A lot of them were railroad kids. I did not know about railroad kids, but about a year before Occupy Wall Street, I worked at a gas station in Cleveland, Ohio. I worked at, I can't remember which one it was, but anyway, I worked at a gas station. And one day, and this gas station was in the middle of a black neighborhood in East Cleveland. But in the middle of the day, a bunch of kind of wealthier looking, you know, well-dressed white kids came in. They were dressed pretty nicely, wearing, you know, trendy clothes that they bought at the mall, but they're covered in mud. They were covered in mud. And they came in. And so they bought something, they left. I asked my coworkers at the gas station. I said, who are they? And they said, those are railroad kids. And apparently it was quite trendy in these years, probably still is, for young teenagers who wanted to run away, you know, to hop onto trains and ride trains that are not, you know, not for commuters, not for people that are transporting, but rather train cars that transport goods. They would jump onto these trains and ride them from different cities. They would get covered in mud. They would use drugs. They would steal food, etc. And it was a whole scene. Around this time of riding around, and a lot of them were really into hallucinogens. A lot of them were really into heroin, and they were just kind of young teenagers who didn't fit in with society, and they'd ride the railroads around. And that was going on. And a lot of these railroad kids, when they heard about Occupy Wall Street, they came to Occupy Wall Street. A lot of what they called crust punks, etc. So when they cleared out Occupy Wall Street, these kids didn't have any place to go because they'd been living in tents at Occupy Wall Street. So where were they going to go? Well, there were a number of different places that these semi-homeless lumpen elements would go. People referred to them as declassed. These were lumpen elements, right? People jokingly called them the voluntary poor. These were kids from middle-class families, usually from suburbs. They usually almost always were white, but they had some kind of issue. They didn't fit in. They were looking for adventure and whatever. And so they went and did this. And Occupy Wall Street collected a lot of these younger people, right? And a lot of them were into a hallucinogen they called ayahuasca, which is apparently a hallucinogen that was really popular among these. I don't know exactly what it is. It's got some Native American roots, and you vomit when you take it. And it's a little bit different than just tripping on acid or something, right? You get together and you breathe in some smoke or something. I forget what it is. But anyway, a lot of them were into these hallucinogens and ayahuasca. And a lot of them were semi-criminal, and they tended to be kind of hippies. They were, interested in, they didn't like the government. Some of them played the guitar, played punk rock music, whatever. So anyway, after they cleared these kids out of the park, there were a number of different places that they went. And one of them, I never went to it. I mean, probably a good thing. But there was a place that they all went to, and it was called, well, not all of them, a lot of them went to, and it was called the Gay Squat, right? And squatting, you all know what squatting is, right? That's when you illegally live someplace. You're not paying rent. You don't have permission to be there. You just show up. And this has happened in New York City for a long time, right? People they see an abandoned building, and homeless people just kind of move in. And then removing squatters is a long legal process, right? So, once you move in, the person who owns the building has to find out that you're there. Then they have to go to court, and you can basically live there for free for a couple months while the legal proceedings to kick you out are going on. It's a thing that homeless people do in New York City, is they find what they call a squat, an unoccupied building. They go there, and if they've been there long enough and they've gotten mail there, right, if they can get a piece of mail that says that they received mail at the address, then kicking them out. The police can't just come and kick them out. There's a whole legal process to kick them out. And so in that time, while they're, in the process of getting kicked out, they find another place to live. And it's a thing that homeless people have been doing a long time. In the punk rock scene, it's a big thing. So there was a place, and I don't know where it was because I never went there, where a lot of these Occupy Wall Street kids were staying, and it was called the Gay Squat. They called it the Gay Squat. And it was called that because apparently it was populated by many, many gay men who would go there. And I remember hearing from the Occupy Wall Street kids that the Gay Squat had been raided by the NYPD. And they said, oh, it was horrible. The NYPD kicked down the door, and they came in and pointed guns at people, and people got arrested. And I was like, wow. I'm thinking, God, thank God I never went there. I had a place to stay. I was renting a basement. I was never homeless, but I'm like, thank God, but they were telling me, and I said, well, what was the charge? Why did they raid the Gay Squat? And they said the charge was pornography without a license. Pornography without a license, which is apparently a very serious crime in New York City. Pornography without a license. And I was quite confused by this. Pornography without a license, right? I mean, look, if a woman makes a sexy video and posts it on her Twitter, are the police going to come arrest her for not having a license? I was like, how does this work? You have to have a license to make pornography. That doesn't make sense to me, right? Someone's typing an erotic novel at their house and they post it on their favorite fan site, and then the doors, the NYPD jumps in through the window. You're under arrest for making porn. Well, no, I learned the legal definition of pornography. Again, I'm a guy from Ohio, from a small town, from a Christian background. They don't teach us this kind of thing in school. There is a legal definition of pornography in the state of New York. All right. Pornography does not mean a sexy video a woman takes of herself on her phone. Pornography does not mean a naughty story that you post on your favorite internet website. Pornography does not even mean all adult entertainment. It can be adult entertainment and not be pornography. It is not pornography unless it contains penetration. Let me repeat that. It is not pornography unless it contains penetration. All right. So naked woman dancing around, nobody penetrates her. That ain't pornography, right? Gay men doing gay stuff, but no one penetrates anybody. Not pornography. And the reason that you have to have a license to do pornography, I found out, again, fascinating stuff. The reason that you have to have a license to make pornography is because people get paid to make pornography. Are you starting to see where this is going here? People get paid to make pornography, and if you pay somebody for a sex act, that is considered to be prostitution, unless you film it. And then it is considered to be pornography. Okay. So apparently, the reason that you have to have a license to make pornography in the state of New York is because some houses of prostitution would put a camera in every room. And they would just say, well, we're just making pornography here. This is free speech. And so they had to say, okay, if you want to make pornography in the state of New York, you have the right to, right? Because I think the Supreme Court has said pornography is allowed, right? You have the right to, but you have to get a license first. And apparently rumors that the so-called gay squat was making pornography without a license was the basis of the raid. Now, I don't think they were actually doing that. But that's a story that I heard from Occupy Wall Street. And that's when I learned the facts of life, that apparently it is not legally considered pornography unless there is penetration. So that then raises the question about these U.S. Senate staffers. What are the laws in the District of Columbia? Are these Senate staffers guilty of making pornography without a license? And I'm going to Google that right now because I think this is of interest, right? Porn without a license in Washington, D.C., in District of Columbia. I'm brave, aren't I? Right? I am very brave for typing that into Google, right? There's many of you that would not be brave enough to type that into Google. And I'm seeing, it is illegal to make non-consensual pornography in the District of Columbia. Well, no shit. I say it's legal to run a porn website in the District of Columbia. There is a revenge porn law in the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. But I do not see any law that says you must have a license to make pornography in the District of Columbia. So I think these guys are safe from any laws forbidding pornography without a license. So they're safe on that front. Again, I am not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. This is just Caleb talking out of his mouth here on social media in reaction to one of the craziest stories that I have seen in a long time. There you go. But apparently these guys are not in violation of those laws. But the whole thing just kind of points to the fact that American politics is becoming a joke. And that leads me to highlight a quote by Vladimir Lenin. All right? One of the most important books that Vladimir Lenin, the founder of the Russian Revolution, wrote is called Left-Wing Communism, an Infantile Disorder. And it's a very readable book about revolutionary tactics. It's a very, very, very reasonable book. And in the book, Lenin makes the following point. I will pull it up. When I get the quote, I'm going to put the quote on the screen. If I can. This is in Left-Wing Communism, an Infantile Disorder. He's describing the years and the aftermath of the defeat of the 1905 revolution in Russia. And this is what he says to describe it. Quote, depression, demoralization, splits, discord, defection, and pornography took the place of politics. And that is what Lenin uses to describe the aftermath of a failed uprising in Russia after the 1905 revolution failed. He describes the atmosphere in revolutionary circles: depression, demoralization, splits, discord, defection, and pornography took the place of politics. And when I read those words, Mima Flowers took the words right out of my mouth, because that sounds just like America. And now that we have literal pornography being filmed in the halls of Congress, it can't get more blatant than this. Depression. There is no hope. There's no future. Demoralization. Splits. Discord. Not just the app Discord, but people disagreeing with each other. Discord. Defection. People getting the hell out of there. And pornography taking the place of politics. And that's why I decided to highlight this story. I just, we try to talk about deeper things on these streams. We try to talk about anti-imperialism. We try to talk about the need for a socialist revolution. We talk about the divisions in the ruling class. We talk about the nature of 21st century socialism. We talk about the history of the communist movement in America. We talk about a lot of different things. But this story, I saw it and I thought, what am I gonna do? And this is a new thing I'm doing, where instead of just saying Saturday Night Chat with Caleb, I make a news story the theme of the live stream. And for tonight, I thought there was absolutely no better news story to articulate the period in which we are living in than this. This tells you everything you need to know about America in our time. And gay porn being filmed on Capitol Hill. That really just sums it up. That is the state of American politics. The halls of Congress are now being used to film literal pornography. And that is where we're at as a country. The pornographication of politics has been completed. You want to talk about bread and circuses. You want to talk about the fall of the Roman Empire. It's all here. It is all here right in front of us. Right in front of us. Doesn't get more blatant than that. And yeah, I just wanted to highlight a few other things, and I do appreciate the super chats that are coming in. You know, you guys got a lot of questions tonight. Keep them rolling in. Give me something to talk about in the second half of our show. But I wanted to highlight another thing. This is just something else I noticed, not related to the gay porn on Capitol Hill. It's just something else I noticed today. A strange tweet from President Joe Biden. Right, Joe Biden is the president of the United States. He made a very, very strange tweet, and I'm sure he didn't actually make it. I don't know if Joe Biden knows what that fancy new internet Twitter thing is, but whoever runs Joe Biden, President Biden's Twitter, he or she made this tweet today. I'm a capitalist. I have no problem with companies making reasonable profits, but not off the backs of seniors and working families. Now, the reason I'm highlighting this tweet is because it is very confused on a number of levels. So he's a capitalist. He's an advocate of a system where production is organized for profit, right? Where the banks lend money to make profit, factories produce products to make profit, you know, housing is made so that profits can be made from selling it, food is produced so that profits can be made from selling it. He is an advocate of the capitalist system. That's probably what he means by that first tweet. Maybe it actually means he owns means of production. I don't know. He says, I have no problem with companies making reasonable profits. What is a reasonable profit? I mean, what is a reasonable profit? You know, I mean, the job of a corporate CEO, the obligation that he has to his shareholders is to make maximum profits. So when do profits not become reasonable? And does anyone object to the amount of profit that people make? I mean, this is odd, right? Are there people out there? This is the impression people have of communists, right? Is that, you know, it's not fair that he made so much money. We're against wealth or something. Like what does this mean? Reasonable profits, right? Any corporation has to make maximum profits, or else other company is going to make higher profits and have a higher profit margin and then reinvest their money and put them out of work. Right? The way that a corporation is managed is what they call the general law of capitalist accumulation, that you make profit, then you take the profit that you made and you reinvest it to expand your enterprise to make more profits. And then with the profit you make there, you expand your enterprise and reinvest it to make more profits. It's the general law of capitalist accumulation, right? Every capitalist seeks to maximize his profits, to expand his enterprise, to maximize his profits again. So, I mean, what is this about reasonable profits? Is it like we're supposed to be saying to corporations, you know, only do about a half as much as you could, right? You know, don't make too much money. This is odd. Anyone with a basic understanding of economics knows that any corporate CEO, any capitalist enterprise has to make as much profit as they possibly could. So at what point does it become irreasonable, right? I mean, if they're violating the law in the process of making those profits, fine, you know, but I mean, anyone knows anything about capitalism knows there's no such thing as non-reasonable profits, right? There might be illegal profits. You know, there might be profits that are heavily taxed. I mean, but the second sentence makes no sense to me. But then the third sentence makes even less sense. So he's a capitalist. He has no problem with companies making reasonable profits, but not on the backs of seniors and working families. And that's where he's just completely lost me. Folks, human labor creates all wealth. If anyone anywhere makes a profit, that profit comes as the result of human labor. Now, if the person is a one-man business, right? If it's a guy on the street, you know, selling cigarettes on the street illegally, right? It's his labor. But the profit that he makes from selling those cigarettes is going to come from his labor. All profit comes from labor. There is no way that you can make a profit without some human labor going into it and creating the value from which the profit is extracted. So how in the world is a company going to make profits that don't come off the backs of working families? Let me repeat. All value comes from human labor. So any profit, reasonable, irreasonable, whatever the hell that means, otherwise, is going to be made from somebody's work. Value doesn't just appear from thin air. If you are going to make a profit, that profit comes from value, and that value is created by human labor. So the idea that a corporation can make profits, reasonable profits, but not off the backs of a working person who is a member of a family, I suppose, right? Like, there's some adult. I mean, what does this mean? That you can make profits off of like some adult who lives by themselves alone and their parents have died and they never had any children and they have no siblings. So if a working person is not a member of a family, then you can make profit from their labor. This doesn't make any sense. And what about not on the backs of seniors? Well, if the seniors are retired and they're not working, how are you going to make profits off of them? I mean, they might be consumers. Is he talking about seniors buying things? Like maybe the drug prices being too high? I mean, you're going to make profits from seniors buying things, right? And I mean, so if your company sells anything to a senior citizen and you make a profit from it, you're going to be making a profit off the back of a senior, right? They don't give things away in stores. So any senior citizen who buys something, do you see how nonsensical this is? What the hell is he talking about on here? What? I mean, this is a nonsensical tweet. This tweet doesn't make any fucking sense to anybody. This is complete and utter gobbledygook. Anyone who knows anything about economics knows that this tweet makes absolutely no fucking sense. Reasonable profits, but not from working families or from seniors. It's like the person who wrote this thinks that like making profits off of someone's back is when you're mean to them, right? That this is kind of a misconception I hear a lot, is that people think, well, you're not exploiting anybody, you're not profiteering off of them unless you're mean, right? You know, I mean, it's like unless the person working in your factory is a 3-year-old child who's getting paid 2 cents an hour, you're not making profits. Yes, you are, right? Profit is how a business functions. You have to get more back than you put into it, or else you can't have a business. That's how these things work. I mean, you know, this is just kind of basic economics, right? They don't, you know, if the guy who ran Ford Motor Company didn't get more money back when he sold a car, he would go out of business. I mean, the tweet, there's no knowledge of economics. And this is one thing that I see a lot, is that people, they kind of appropriate Marxist terms. They appropriate Marxist terms and they insert into them not the scientific understanding of what these terms actually mean, but rather a kind of liberal moralism. There's the good businessman who pays a decent wage. There's the bad businessman who doesn't. There's the good businessman who makes only reasonable profits. There's the bad businessman who makes huge profits. You know, there's the good businessman who makes profits, you know, by paying people a fair wage. There's the bad businessman who makes profits off the backs of working families and seniors. This is like liberal moralism. There's good people in the world. There's bad people in the world. And Joe Biden is a good person, and he's not a commie. He's not a commie. He started out the tweet, you'll remember, make it clear, he is a capitalist. And he believes in only reasonable profits, as long as they don't come from the backs of seniors and working families. This is gobbledygook. This is absolute gobbledygook. But it is an opportunity for me to teach you all some basic economics. So I am going, for just one moment, to go and get a notepad, and I can explain to you what all of this means. So let me just for 1 second stop the camera, and I'm going to go grab the nearest sheet of paper, and I'm going to explain to you where profits come from, why capitalism has the problem it has. I'm going to use that Joe Biden tweet to explain some basic economics to you. So hold on. Okay. All right. Are you all still here? Are you all still here? Good. I'm glad that you all are still here. Thanks for being patient tonight. The audience deserves a medal for their patience tonight, but that's good. Good things come to those who wait. If you don't have to wait for it, it may not be worth your time. So folks, I've done this before, but I will do this again because this is such an important part of what we talk about on here, right? And this is you are going to learn from this tonight. You are going to learn basic Marxist economics that I see so few people grasping and understanding. All right. Let's say that you have a factory that makes tires. You have a factory, and in that factory, you produce tires. You're going to need the rubber and the materials to make the tire. So that's A. You're going to need to transport the tires to where they're being sold. And that is B. And there's going to be labor, human labor. You're going to have to hire some people to assemble the tires. So that is C. C is the labor costs. And the final cost of the tire that the consumer pays per tire is D. So we have the materials, the transport, the human labor, and we have the final cost of the product. Well, here's the problem. What's missing? Something's missing here. The capitalist has to be able to make profit. Right? The final cost that the consumer pays when they buy the tire is D. The supplies are A. The transport costs are B. The labor that goes into each tire is C. How does the capitalist make his profit? Well, he can't change how much it costs for the materials. And he cannot change how much it costs to ship the tires. So the profit that the capitalist makes off the tires has to come out of C. So really, the equation changes. Right? We have C1 and C2. C1 represents the wages that actually get paid to the worker. And C2 represents what is called surplus value, which is the profit that is extracted by the capitalist. And all adds up to D, the final cost. A plus B plus C1 plus C2 equals D. Only human labor creates value, and the capitalist must cut into the value put into the product by the worker in order to make his profit. And that is what Marxists term exploitation, because the idea is the worker who puts C into it only gets C1. He doesn't get the full value of his labor because C2 is extracted to make a profit. But we all know the argument by the capitalist is, well, he put up the money. He started the company. He had the idea. Shouldn't he get a return on his investment? And if it wasn't for him, why this worker would never be able to work? And that's a whole debate that misses the point. That completely misses the point. And this is, standard Marxism stops here. right? If you're watching your typical Marxist YouTuber who's talking about the pencil factory and how it's not fair that some people own the factory and some people work in the factory, their analysis stops here. And you're missing the most important point. The most important point comes next, right? This is stage one. This is the first thing that you have to understand, okay? But there's something much more important, which is this. C1 is always less than D. The wages paid out in the process of making the tire are never enough to buy back the tire. In the process of production, the capitalist always produces more goods than he pays out to the worker to create them. There is no way that C1 can ever be equal to D. They cannot ever be equal. There is no way that the capitalist can pay out enough wages that the worker can buy all the tires. And this is the problem of overproduction. And when people say overproduction means, oh, that just means there's too much stuff, we're destroying the environment. No. That is not what overproduction means. Overproduction is the fact that the wages paid out to the employee and the wages paid out in the process of production never allow for the worker to buy back what he produces. And this is why in the capitalist economy, you have a problem called glut, G-L-U-T, glut. In 1825, we had an economic crisis. And it was the first economic crisis in history that was caused by having too much. In the past, there were famines. And why were there famines? Because there wasn't enough food. In the past, there were crises of homelessness, where people were homeless. Why? Because there wasn't enough housing. 1825 was the first great capitalist crisis caused by overproduction. The capitalist never pays the worker enough to buy back what he produces. And so capitalism constantly has to deal with this. And this is why the American government buys billions and billions of dollars worth of cheese and buries it in a cave in Springfield, Missouri. You can look this up. Google it right now. Springfield, Missouri, there is a cave that has billions of dollars worth of cheese buried in it. Why? To make the price of dairy go up so that American farmers don't all go under. Right? This is why we have a military-industrial complex in this country. Why? Because of the fact that the government pumps all kinds of money into the military corporations to buy a bunch of guns and tanks and weapons that we don't use very often, far more than we ever need for even all the huge wars that we wage, because that keeps the economy rolling along. This is the problem of overproduction. And the important thing to understand is that the problem of overproduction gets worse. This is also very important. So you have, right, A plus B plus C equals D. Right. So this is what we've got so far. Well, we also have another problem. The capitalist profit is represented by C2. That's the profit margin of the capitalist. The value that is extracted from the labor value put in by the worker, that's C2. Well, what is the capitalist constantly trying to do? He's trying to maximize the amount of product that he's creating and lower the cost of creating that. So he's constantly reducing the amount of human labor that goes into the product. He's using labor-saving technology. He replaces human beings on the assembly line with robots. He replaces skilled workers with unskilled workers. He uses technology to de-skill the jobs. And so C which is the labor value that is put into the product, the part that's done by human beings, is constantly going down because of technological advancement. Human labor in production is constantly decreasing. And there's a problem with that, which is C2, which is the capitalist profit, is also constantly decreasing. Because only human labor can create profit for the capitalist. The capitalist can only extract value, surplus value, can only make profits from human labor. So as you eliminate C, and as the amount of the final cost that is produced by human labor decreases, the profit that the capitalist makes also decreases. And that is what you need to understand about the times we're living in. And that is why when liberals talk about exploitation and they talk about reasonable profits, and that tweet you just saw from Joe Biden makes no sense. It's missing the point. The concept of exploitation, the concept of profits is not a good versus bad question. It's a question of basic economics. And we're living in a period where technological advancement has led to a greater drop in C than ever before. With artificial intelligence, with 3D printers, with computers that can do almost anything now, we have never seen C decrease as much as it is decreasing now. The amount of human labor that is involved in production is lower than it has ever been. There has been a huge drop in the amount of human labor that goes into creating a product. And so, as a result, the profits of the capitalist are decreasing more than ever before. And that what this is called the tendency of the falling rate of profit. And it is playing out on a wider scale than ever before in human history. And this is why we are in a crisis. The technological leaps that the capitalist system have created have led to a situation where this constant problem of people being homeless because there are too many houses, people being hungry because there is too much food, is exacerbated like never before. I frequently use the example of self-driving cars. In a rational society, self-driving cars would be a great thing. But in our society, if we got artificial sensors and artificial intelligence and GPS monitoring and all of that, and driving was no longer necessary, there would be riots in the streets. There would be millions of desperate, unemployed people. And this is the problem with capitalism. And this is why we need a rationally organized economy. We need a society where the banks and the factories and the industries and the centers of economic power are organized to serve the people and not the profits of a wealthy few. We need central planning of the economy so that we can overcome the irrationality of an economy where production is organized for profit. And this is what you need to understand. And this is what Marxism is all about. And Joe Biden's tweet gave me a reason to talk about that. So, are there any other things I wanted to talk about here in my opening remarks? We're about to hit 1 hour. You know, I mean, there's a few things that I could talk about that I saw. You know, Jimmy Dore. I don't know if you saw that. He was so moved by my Hunter Biden Al Capone clip that he showed it on his show, gave us a shout out. I appreciate that. You know, you know, that was good. What else? We just had a great conference in Portland. I could talk about that. There's some videos from the conference that are coming out. You know, I mean, we could talk about that. You know, Piers Morgan had Alan Dershowitz and Norman Finkelstein on to debate about Israel and Palestine. The Zionists, Israel is just murdering the Palestinians. and the whole world is condemning what they are doing. That's happening. There's a lot of things that we could point to, right? There's a lot of things that we could discuss. There's a lot of things that we could use our time here to discuss. But the main thing to discuss, I think, this is just how I'll end my opening remarks for tonight. I guess I'll pull up that Lenin quote that we put on the screen. Right? We'll just pull up the Lenin quote. It's from the very important book that Lenin wrote called Left-Wing Communism. Demoralizations, depression, splits, discord, defection, and pornography took the place of politics. Because people ask me why I continue to build the Center for Political Innovation. Why do I do that? Why am I not happy to just be a commentator online? Why am I not happy to just be a reporter for international media? Why do I put myself in danger? Danger of government repression, danger of having people who don't like me or get annoyed or get jealous, leak my personal private life all over the internet, danger of having to fight with people, danger of getting stressed out by people, danger of having people, come after me and try to turn my friends against me, danger of running out of money, danger of having people be competitive. Why do I subject myself to this kind of danger? And sometimes I ask myself that. Why do I keep doing this? But the answer came to me about a year ago. Maybe 9 or 10 months ago. Because in the lead up to Rage Against the War Machine 1, multiple people got back to me. I didn't hear it directly from this person, but a rather prominent anti-imperialist internet commentator, somebody that I still look up to, and I appreciate their work. And I mean, I haven't burned the bridge with this person. I'm not even going to say their name. I respect them in many ways, but we have a different perspective. This person, through multiple channels, told me I should, quote, stop organizing. And the message was directed to me through a couple of their people who said, you should stop organizing. And they both admitted that this is what was told to them by this person. And I respect this person. I still do. And so I thought to myself, what would that mean to stop organizing? And I asked both of the intermediaries, both of the messengers, I said, what would that mean to stop organizing? And they said, well, you can, keep streaming on YouTube, but just don't have a group. And they said, you can make a video essay every so often. If you see a news story you want to comment on, you can make a video essay and you can edit it and you can stop organizing. And I thought about that for a second and I thought, what the hell would my video essays be about? What would be the point? What would be the point? Why would I be making these video essays if I wasn't seeking to build some kind of organization? Why would I stream? I don't know, just to get my feelings out on the web? Like, what would be the point? What would be the point? For me, this has always been about trying to build an organization, build a community, and trying to change the world. And for the people that it's simply an opportunity to engage in commentary, simply an opportunity to make a name for themselves, simply an opportunity to be on social media, I don't relate. For me, this has always been about organizing. This has always been about building a community. I have been doing this since I was what, 15 years old at least, right? And the idea that I would somehow stop organizing, stop building a community, stop doing anything about these ideas, but just be another voice on the internet doesn't sound appealing to me. I don't know any other way to live. This is the way that I am comfortable living. This is how I know how to live. And there is no other option for me. I could not stop if I wanted to. And if I could somehow stop, I would be safer. I'd be in a financial situation that was better. I would be less under threat from the American government. I'd deal with a lot less drama in my life. There'd be a lot less people mad at me and a lot less people I'm trying to negotiate with and keep happy. But I cannot stop. This is who I am. I do not know any way of being other than this. Life is struggle. Struggle is life. And you need a community. And you need a group of people who understand the point. Who understand the point and help you stay optimistic and help you stay hopeful and help you focus on achieving your goal. There is no life beyond struggle. Right? I will pull up, again, we're talking about Marx tonight. Right? This is a Marx quote. Here's a Marx quote. Put on the screen. A quote that is highly relevant to what we're talking about on here. If I can get one that's big enough. All these images of it are small. Let me see if I can find one that's bigger. It doesn't have the logo of some group I don't agree with on it. All righty. All right, this one will have to do. All right, here we go. This is a Marx quote. Philosophers have only interpreted the world. The point, however, is to change it. I couldn't agree more. What is the point of interpreting the world without changing it? What is the point? What would be the point? Right? We just put on a good show. We feel like we're smarter than everybody else because we have a deeper understanding. No, the point of learning is to change things. And the point of changing things is to learn in the process. The Revolutionary Communist Party, the RCP, back in the 70s, they had a slogan. If you want to learn things, you got to change things. You got to change things. You got to learn things. A revolutionary party is supposed to engage in leading while learning and learning while leading. You learn in the process of struggle. You learn in the process of struggle. You become more in touch with reality through the process of struggle. And you apply your knowledge to struggle even more effectively. You learn so that you can change. You change so that you can learn. Leading while learning, learning while leading, from the masses to the masses. That's what's in the little red book. From the masses to the masses. The maths line. The idea is to love the people, to learn from the people, and to apply the science of history in the process of pointing the people toward how they can fight for their freedom. And I talk about this little red book, right? This is a lot of dense Marxist theory packed into little quotations. This is Mao's Twitter page, basically. This is Mao Zedong's Twitter page. And the chapter that I keep coming back to is the chapter on the mass line. Chapter 11. Chapter 11. The mass line. The people and the people alone are the motive force in the making of history. The masses are the real heroes, while we ourselves are often childish and ignorant. Without this understanding, it is impossible to acquire even the most rudimentary knowledge. The masses have boundless creative power. They can organize themselves and concentrate on places and branches of work where they can give full play to their energy, and they can concentrate on production in breadth and depth and create more and more undertakings for their well-being. This is the Little Red Book, chapter 11. Brings me now to one of my favorite quotes. This is 1927. They sent Chairman Mao out to a region in China, Hunan, the region he grew up in, a rural region where the peasants in Hunan have been rebelling. There's been a peasant uprising. And so they ask him to come back and give a report to the Chinese Communist Party about what's happening. And this is what he says. He says, the present upsurge of the peasant movement is a colossal event. In a very short time, China's central, southern, and northern regions, several 100 million peasants will be rising like a mighty storm, like a hurricane, a force so swift and violent that no power, however great, will be able to hold it back. They will smash the trammels that bind them and rush forward on the road to liberation. They will sweep all the imperialists, warlords, and corrupt officials, local tyrants, and evil gentry into their graves. And every revolutionary party and every revolutionary comrade will be put to the test, to be accepted as they decide or rejected as they decide. There are three alternatives: to march at their head and lead them, to trail behind them, gesticulating and criticizing, or to stand in their way and oppose them. Every Chinese is free to choose, but events will force you to make the choice quickly. That is Mao. That's Mao Zedong in 1927. And he sounds a lot like Noah, right? If you're someone who grew up as a Christian or as a Muslim or as a Jew, you probably heard in your childhood a story about a guy named Noah. And Noah got a message from God that a flood was coming. And so he started building himself an ark. He started cutting down trees and nailing wood together and making himself an ark. He said, the flood's coming. And his neighbors thought he was crazy. And his kids thought he was crazy. And everyone thought Noah had gone a little loopy in the head. But then one day it started raining. And didn't stop. And it started raining some more. And 2 days went by. Didn't stop. 3 days went by. And pretty soon the floodwaters were rising. And Noah and his family, his tribe, they were safe. And the people who disregarded the warnings, the people who mocked Noah, they got washed away. They drowned. Well, fast forward to 1927. Chairman Mao was Noah. Chairman Mao saw that the peasants were going to rebel. And he said to the communists, we can start building an ark. We can prepare so that when they rebel, we march at their head and lead them. And they rebel our way. Or we can get in their way and oppose them. Or we can trail behind them, gesticulating and criticizing. And then we're going to get washed away in the flood. And every Chinese is free to choose. But you will be forced to choose quickly. That's what Noah was doing back in the Bible times. That's what Mao Zedong was saying in 1927. And that is what I am saying to you right now. I can explain the math over and over again. I can tell you about artificial intelligence. I can tell you why they're driving toward World War III against Russia and China. I can tell you why they've got their sick fantasies about making us all eat bugs and live in pods and own nothing and be happy about it. I can tell you why the Democrats and the Republicans are at each other's throats, battling each other for power, and one faction of the ruling class is struggling against the other as they try to stabilize their system as the whole thing is going to hell. I can tell you all about it. I can beat it into your head, and I can read to you the Red Book, and I can read to you Marx, and I can read to you headlines, and I can explain it all to you. But at the end of the day, you have to make a choice. I can't make that decision for you. I can't drag you along. At the end of the day, you have to make a choice. Because there's a big explosion coming. They have overshot themselves. They have bitten off more than they can chew. They have done something amazingly stupid. Here in America, the United States of America, they have gathered people from every corner of the globe. We got Europeans here, Eastern Europeans, Western Europeans. We got Africans, black people who are dragged here in chains. We've got Native Americans who are here. We've got people from South America and Central America and Mexico. We've got people from Asia here. We've got people from all over every corner of the globe packed into this place. And for the most part, they came here because they wanted to have a better life. Now, some were dragged here in chains. Some were, the border didn't cross them, or they didn't cross the border crossed them, as the Chicano people would say. But after they got here, however they got here, they then got pumped this message. America is a great land of opportunity. America is a great land of opportunity. This is the country where you can work hard and get ahead. This is the country where you can work hard and get ahead. This is the country where you can succeed. This is the country where you can have more wealth than you had before. This is the country where you can make your dreams come true. This is the country of growth and prosperity and optimism. Blah, 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 blah. And for generation after generation after generation, they pump this into our heads. And now they've looked at their data that's come in, and they've looked at their information that's come in, and they said, oh, shit. In order to save our system, we have to make them all poor now. Yeah. In order to save their system, we need degrowth. In order to save our system, we have to make them all eat bugs. We have to make them all live on a life of low-wage, short-term service sector jobs. We have to get them to not have children. We have to get them to live in utter poverty. We have to get them to use half the electricity that they're using. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. All right. Well, we're just going to have to degrow America. All right. Let's do it. They're fucked. Because the American people will not be degrown. The American working class will not be degrown. People have come to this country and jumped over fences to get here. People have survived the horrendous transatlantic slave trade, one of the most genocidal criminal operations in history. The Black Americans today are the survivors of the horrendous transatlantic slave trade. And that's how they got here. They survived a genocidal operation. There are people that came here in boats. There are people that came here to escape horrendous wars. The people who've come here are the survivors. The people who are here, we are the descendants of survivors. We are the descendants of relentless people who do not give up, who do not surrender. That's who we are. Whether you're black, white, Arab, Asian, Latino, Mexican, Guatemalan, Vietnamese, Chinese, Filipino, whatever you are, that's who you are. You have the blood of a non-surrendering survivor in your veins. That is who you are as an American. We are a country that doesn't surrender. We are a country that doesn't give up. We are a country of people who fight back and don't roll over and play dead for the brutal, blood-sucking imperialists. We are a country that punches back. We are a country that keeps standing up no matter how hard they come at us. That's who we, the American people, are. We are a nation of people who have refused to die, who have refused to surrender. That is who we are. And now the very people that have been pumping us with that bullshit, with that this is the land of hope and opportunity, with that, hard work and achieve your dreams. The people who've been pumping us with this free market, hard work, we can be rich here in America. The people who've been pumping us full of that optimism and that thinking, and using it to make bullshit propaganda against the Soviet Union, and bullshit propaganda against China, and bullshit propaganda against Cuba. The very same people who've been pumping us full of that bullshit propaganda now have realized that they've made an awful mistake, because they're now trying to tell us that we all have to be poorer. They expect us to accept their low-wage police state. They expect us to accept their low-wage police state, their prison America, their prison planet that they expect us to accept in order to save their system. And we ain't going to do it. We are not going to do it. The American people will not accept the low-wage police state. We will not accept it. We are not going to eat bugs. We are not going to live in pods. We are not going to own nothing and be happy about it. We are not going to be degrown. We're not going to not have children. We're not going to accept our kids having a lower standard of living than we had. We are not going to accept it. We're just not going to accept it. And pretty soon, the explosion is coming. And pretty soon, the floodwaters are going to start rising. And pretty soon, that hurricane, that storm, that earthquake is going to shake the ground of this country. There is going to be rebellion like we have never seen before. The people, when they are faced with the threat of being degrown, of being crushed in order to preserve the profits of the international monopolies, they will not take it, and they are going to fight back, and they are going to do things that shock us and surprise us. They are going to blow our minds. People in your neighborhood, people in your community, your coworkers, your classmates, your friends, people that you know in your life that are just the most meek and accepting people today are going to blow your mind with the heroism that they engage in to fight against their low-wage police state. There are going to be Americans that you know right now, and you're going to be, is this the person? How the hell is this possible? They are going to blow your mind. The masses of people are the real heroes. They are the makers of history. And they are going to blow your mind. And our job as revolutionaries is not to go do it for them. It's not to try and outdo them. They're going to do things that we would never even dream of doing. Our job is going to be to give guidance, to march at their head and lead them. Our job is going to be to direct the explosion in the right direction, to make the explosion that's coming go the way that it needs to go. That's going to be our job. We have to make it happen the right way. And we have to use our scientific understanding of the objective laws of history to point the coming awakening, the coming explosion in the direction that it needs to go. That's what we need to do. We must use our understanding of the objective laws of history. We must use our analysis and our understanding of imperialism and anti-imperialism. We must use that to point the coming explosion in the right direction, to point it toward building the new America, that we desperately need. And that's our job. We're not going to be the ones that are at the center of the battle to come. We're going to be the ones that explain what the battle is for and give it purpose and give it direction. That's what we're going to do. And that's really all we can do. That's with our little resources, our little time, we can give direction to the coming revolution, the coming explosion. And that's what my book is all about, right? You want to go listen to the audio book. Tyler McConnell did a great audio book of this book. This is my message. Where is America going? Marxism, MAGA, and the coming revolution. And in great detail, in 500 pages, I explain to you with all kinds of economic data and all kinds of quotations exactly why we're in the mess that we're in and how we get out of it. And that's the message. And what I'd like you all to know is if we're going to have any chance of making the coming revolution and the coming explosion happen, we can't be outsiders. We have to know our people. We have to know America and we have to love it. We have to know the values of people in this country. We have to know the feelings and the emotions that are deep within this country. We have to know them. We have to relate to them. And we have to harness them for good. In China, they call their system socialism with Chinese characteristics. And the only type of socialism that's ever going to work in this country is going to be socialism with American characteristics. It's going to be a socialism rooted in our country and the struggles that take place here and the history that takes place here and the contradictions of this society. And it is our job to love the people of this country, to know the people of this country, to connect with the people of this country, and give voice to the deeply rooted feelings of the people of this country. And the coming revolution will have a spiritual aspect. I believe in the separation of church and state. I believe in freedom of religion. But if you look throughout this history of this country, the passion that the American people have, their willingness to make sacrifices and take risk has a very deeply spiritual quality. And when shit gets real, there's going to be a lot of people talking about God. And there's going to be a lot of people having visions. There's going to be a lot of people praying. There's going to be a lot of people singing. There's going to be a lot of Bibles involved, a lot of Qurans involved, a lot of Torahs and Talmuds involved. There's going to be a lot. There's going to be a spiritual awakening that will come with the coming revolution. And again, you can turn your nose up at that and say, well, I'm smarter than that. I would never dabble in that. Oh, yeah, you do that. You do that. But if you're serious, you're going to find a way to connect with that energy also. All right? The time for being lonely and isolated is over. The time for sitting on the internet and feeling like you're the smartest person on the internet is over. The time for looking down on your fellow Americans and fellow working people is over. The time for sitting in isolation is over. a lot of people all across this country right now, people that I do not look down on, people that I do not consider myself to be better than, people that I certainly don't hold in contempt, people that I think about every day. A lot of people across this country are dead right now. They may be alive, they're breathing, their hearts are pumping blood, their lungs are taking in air and blowing air out. They are living, but they are only living in the biological sense. They are alive, but something inside of them is dead. And you've met these people, and you know them. Maybe you are one of them. It's an awful way to be. It is an awful way to be living biologically, to be just going through the motions of life, painfully, trudging through, dragging yourself along, going through the motions, but not having a cause to believe in, not having a purpose, not understanding where you are, not being able to point at the map and say, this is where I am, not being able to go down the road and say, this is where I'm going and this is where I came from. Dead. There are many people that are living that existence, and it's awful. It's an awful way of being. And I know that because I was once there myself. And there have been times, even in my adult life, that I've slipped back into that way of being. I've been disconnected. When bad things have happened, when friendships and alliances have ended. There's been even times in my adult life that I've slipped back into that awful way of being. But my life started on a day when I was 15 years old. I went to a communist bookstore in Cleveland. My family was going up to Cleveland for some other reason. So they agreed to drop me at the communist bookstore in Cleveland for a discussion they were having about the war in Iraq. I sat there and I listened to their discussion. I was there all by myself. And after the discussion was over, one of the communist youth leaders turned to me, handed me a stack of newspapers. Said, Caleb, we're going out to sell the paper. And I was like, wait, what? And they explained that they were going out to sell the paper. And I said, wait a minute, hold up. You want me to go out on the street and walk up to people I do not know, strangers, and try to get them to pay me physical money? We are talking U.S. currency, actual dollar bills, for a newspaper about communism. I said, you got to be out of your mind. I ain't doing that. That's crazy. And they're like, no, we're doing it all. We're doing it. We do it every day. We do it all the time. We're going to go out and sell the paper. I was like, oh my God, I thought I could not do this. Could not sell the newspaper. Oh my God. And my family had been constantly telling me to shut up about politics, about, oh, my brother's getting picked on because people think he's a communist. You got to shut up. Don't talk about it. It's embarrassing. Your politics are crazy. No one wants to hear that shit. And so I'm out here on the streets of Cleveland Heights, Ohio. And I'm walking up to strangers, you want a newspaper about, but you know what? I'll never forget the first newspaper that I ever sold. The first newspaper I ever sold, I was wearing my athletic letterman's jacket. I played soccer my freshman year of high school. I got a letter, and so I was wearing a letterman's jacket, and it had a big O on my jacket because O stood for Orville, is the town I was from. I'll never forget the first newspaper I ever sold was to a couple. And the man bought the newspaper and he said, "Oh, you go to Oberlin. You go to Oberlin College, just like I did." He saw that O and the orange, or I think the red and the black and the white, and he thought I went to Oberlin College. Well, I didn't go to Oberlin College, but I wasn't going to correct the man. I sold a newspaper, the first newspaper that I ever sold. I sold it to a couple. The man was an Oberlin graduate, and he thought I went to Oberlin as well, and he bought the newspaper. That's the first newspaper I ever sold. And I just thank God for that day. That was the greatest day of my life. It was the greatest day of my life. I didn't know it at the time. It was kind of fun to get to go to a communist bookstore. It was kind of exciting to know I could actually walk up to people and engage with them politically. But what I didn't know is that that was my first step toward being alive. That was my first step toward being alive, toward waking up, toward having a real life, toward having real friends, toward being involved in a real community, toward really doing something, not just sitting on the internet and arguing with people about it, but actually building, actually doing something, and actually feeling that with my actions and with my drive and my passion, I could take actions that would impact the course of history. I could do something. I didn't just have to sit behind my computer and be mad at George Bush and be mad about the war in Iraq and be mad about torture and be mad about political repression. I could intervene in the historical process. Philosophers have only analyzed the world, only interpreted the world. The point, however, is to change it. And when you take that leap, and you start to try and change the world, you start to realize that you're not as powerless as they've told you. You have the ability with your limited body and your limited mind and your limited strength and your limited resources. You have the ability to do something. You can make a difference in the future of your community and your country and your world. You can take responsibility for what comes next and how tomorrow turns out. It is the most empowering feeling that you can ever have, to take history into your own hands, to decide that you will intervene in the historical process. It is empowering to be a revolutionary. And my life has been a wild, wild journey. I've gone from the streets of Cleveland to New York City. I've gone from New York City to Iran. I've gone from Iran to the Gulf of Aden. I've gone from the Gulf of Aden to Russia, to Sochi, to Moscow. I've been to Venezuela, and I've built the Center for Political Innovation, and we've had conferences in Austin, Texas, and we've had conferences in Chicago, and we've had conferences in New York City, and we just had an amazing conference in Oregon, and the video is coming soon. And we are going to go to every corner of this country with our message of hope. Our message of hope. It's not a pessimistic message. It's not a message of calling people racist and sexist and homophobic. We are helping people to come alive with hope. We are telling people that there is a purpose to life. We are telling people that there is a point and that you can intervene in history and that you can become empowered. We are awakening people. We are letting people come out of the trance of death and become emboldened, awakened people who can make a difference in the lives of others. And it's not easy. It's not easy. And you piss people off and you make mistakes and people come and people go and people split and there's disagreements. And, you know, these things happen. But if you commit to do this, and if you get into the momentum of doing this, there's no way you can stop. There's no way I'm going back to living biologically. There's no way I'm going to eat bugs either. I ain't going to live in a pod. I ain't going to put up with World War III. I know what I'm here to do. I know the purpose for which God put me here. I know there's a reason that I keep going and that I don't stop. And you will find that reason as well. And you will find that purpose as well. And you will understand why people in the past did this. And you will understand how the Soviet Union defeated those Nazi invaders and drove the Germans right back to Berlin. You'll understand. You will understand how millions of Chinese people went up and joined Mao in the mountains, gave up their comfortable life in the city and went out with the people in the countryside and joined the Red Army and marched. You will understand all of that. You'll understand why Che Guevara was able to be the hero that he was able to be. You'll understand why the Venezuelan people have never surrendered, why Maduro is still in power despite the USA doing everything they can to crush that country. You will understand the Palestinians and how they just continue to fight back despite everything being thrown at them. You will understand because some of that powerful spiritual energy will pump through your veins also. And I can describe it to you all night, and I can talk about it all night, and I can tell you what it's like all night. You just got to live it. You got to do it. You know, it's a lifestyle. It's a way of being. It's not something you get instantly. But I remember, and I hope he's watching now. There's one of our comrades. Friday night, we had an event with Jyoti Brar. It was like a builder for our conference. Right? It wasn't as big. It was about maybe 40 people were there to watch Jyoti Brar give her remarks about the World Anti-Imperialist Platform. And, you know, people just kept coming in. And there were people from all over the country who were coming in for our conference. And the room kept filling up with people that were there. We're there in the basement of a church in Portland, Oregon. And, you know, we're there to see Jyoti. And after Jyoti finishes her remarks, one of my comrades comes up to me and he's just shaking a little bit. And he's like, I feel it, Caleb. I feel it. And I said, this is amazing. He's like, we're the Fourth International. And I said, what do you mean? We're Trotskyites? No, we're not Trotskyites. We're the real Fourth International. Just like the Bolsheviks had the Third International and the Second International. Like, this is us. We're it, Caleb. We're it. And I said, yes, we are it. We're it. We're it, my friend. And he felt it. And I didn't have to tell him anything. And he felt it in the room. He could feel it. He could feel it. And people came up to me all day in Oregon because they could feel it. They could feel it. They could feel it. We're doing it. We're doing it. And right now it's hard and we're swimming upstream, right? Sometimes it seems a little too easy. I'll just be real with you all. Austin was way too easy, right? Something was going on and it was just a little bit too easy in Austin. Got harder in Chicago. Got harder after that. Right now we're swimming upstream. But we're swimming. We just had our biggest event yet. New people are joining. 9 people have joined since our conference in Oregon. 9 new members have signed up on the website. And we're swimming upstream. We're swimming. We're swimming upstream, but we're building up strength. We are building up strength. And if you swim upstream for a while and you build up your strength, when you start swimming downstream, you are going to swim faster than you've ever swum before, because you have built up all that strength withstanding. And when the odds shift into your favor and when the current changes, you are going to swoop down. You are going to roll in at the speed of light. That's what we're doing. We're fighting for everything we got right now. Every person watching this, every view, every click, every like, every member that we have, every event that we have, every butt in a seat at an event we have, every book we sell, we earned that. We earned it well, right? We fight for every inch that we've gotten, right? The vampires have come at us and tried to suck our blood, and we have earned everything we've got. We have earned everything we've got. And so when we're ready to surge forward, we are going to surge forward like you will not believe. We are going to surge forward and shake the ground. And there's going to be a lot of people who chickened out. A lot of people who ran away when the going got tough. We're going to really regret their decision. And I think a lot of them already are. I think a lot of them already are. You know, around holiday time, they sing the German Christmas song, "Oh Christmas Tree." And every time I hear the tune, "Oh Christmas Tree," I immediately think of the Marxist British anthem. The people's flag is deepest red. It shrouded oft our martyr dead. And ere their limbs grew stiff and cold, our heart's blood dyed its every fold. Then raised the scarlet standard high. Within its shade we live and die. Though cowards flinch and traitors sneer, we'll keep the red flag flying here. Though cowards flinch and traitors sneer, we'll keep the red flag flying here. All right, folks, names and locations, names and locations. I will call you all out as I see you. Names and locations, names and location. I will call you all out as I see you. I always enjoy having you all here. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure to engage with all of you. Names and locations. Names and locations. Who is with us tonight? I got 8 super chats here on YouTube. Nothing on the Rockfin. Nothing on the Rumble. All right. So we got Rice from Adelaide, Australia. Mariah in North Carolina. Bob Troy in New York. We got Ryan in Kansas City. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good to have you all here with us tonight. Names and locations, names and locations. We got Faquijo in Montreal. We got Catalonia, Spain. Great stream. Well, thank you, Pios. Finn in Duluth. Welcome, Finn. Mopping Time in Scotland. Ottawa, work in progress. China, Shill, California. Mosin from Iran. Patch in Arizona. A Better America in Michigan. Ed in Louisville. Steve in Boston. Welcome, Steve. Good to have you, Steve. Names and locations, names and locations. Anyone on the Rumble, anyone on the Rockfin, names and locations, names and locations. I will call you all out as Jamie in St. Paul, Jenny Lynn in Cincinnati, Jamie in St. Paul, Patch in Maine, Alex from Brazil, Bendigo, David Fox from Bendigo, Australia, St. David's, Bermuda. Welcome, welcome. Brendan in Palo Alto, Augustine, Battle Cossack, Augustine. Welcome, welcome. Nick in Michigan. Welcome, Nick. Good to have you. Names and locations, names and locations. Zaire in Denmark. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Gonzalo in Argentina. Welcome. Good to have you with us. Good to have you with us. Names and locations, folks. Names and locations. Gabby in Chicago. Gabby is awesome. Gabby, check your signal. Important question for you. Check your signal. Miami, Florida. Scott in Miami, Florida. Nick in Michigan. Brendan in Palo Alto. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Names and locations, names and locations. Who is with us tonight? Names and locations. Sam from Missouri. Welcome, Sam. Good to have you. Good to have you. Welcome, Sam. Welcome, welcome, welcome. There we go. There we go. All right. All right. So, folks, I do just want to throw this out there, right? Since a lot of you are watching from different places and all of that, a lot of people wonder how to get in touch with me. You can always reach me. I get a lot of emails. You can always reach me at calebmaupin@gmail.com. That is how you can reach me. I don't type out the full address, but if I type this, you all know what I mean. calebmaupin@gmail.com, right? And that's a great way to reach me. And hey, since I'm, we've got the new rent here and my wife is between jobs and stuff. If you want to send us a holiday gift to me and my family, you can Zelle me at that address. Always appreciated. Anything that people can do would be appreciated because we're up against it. Trying to figure out everything. calebmaupin@gmail. You can send me an email if you want to communicate, or you can Zelle me at that address. And yeah, we'll be answering super chats here tonight. So, you can send in a Rumble rant if you're on the Rumble. You can send in a Rockfin tip if you're on the Rockfin, or you can, if you want, you can send a super chat here on YouTube. That's one way of communicating with us. For you, comrade, says Joseph Stalin. Great. It's appropriate that Stalin is wearing the Superman costume because Stalin was the real Man of Steel, right? How do you say Man of Steel in Russian? Stalin, right? And I've often talked about Superman, right? Superman being the ideal socialist, the history I've used that in many, many different speeches. I've talked about Superman. So there we go. Were socialist bloc athletes really mass doped? I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. I do know that socialist countries do take the Olympics very, very seriously. They are very, very into their athletic achievements in the Olympics. It's a really, really big, important part of socialist culture. They want to prove that their system produces good athletes who can do amazingly well. And this was true back in the Stalin years. This was true, true in the Soviet Union. This is true today in Cuba. Cuba leads the world in boxing, right? They have some of the top boxers in the world. North Korea is very, very good at sharpshooting, right? They have a lot of medals in sharpshooting. It's true that there are many times the North Korean athlete will win a gold medal, and then at their press conference, they will hold up their rifle and they'll say, Kim Il-sung told me to shoot as if I was aiming at the very heart of U.S. imperialism. That happens, right? They take athletics very seriously in socialist countries. It's interesting, right? It's a very big part of the socialist culture. And they have athletic achievements, ballet, right? Soviet ballet and Chinese ballet. They did things that had never been done in the history of ballet, in the history of gymnastics. They were setting world records. The athletic achievements during the Soviet years were pretty amazing. Was there blood doping involved? I don't know. And I'm not the guy to ask about that. Sports is not my particular forte. I do know it's very important to socialist countries. And yeah, there you go. I just don't know enough about it. So there you go. All right. Would you agree with boycotting companies for their support of Israel, or is that too much? Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I do know that, like, first of all, there are many companies that are heavily involved in Israel, right? You know, and you know, for a while, the Palestinians had an actual list of companies they wanted you to boycott. You know, McDonald's, for example, is heavily involved in Israel. The Jewish United Fund of Chicago, which is a pro-Israel lobby foundation. Their main corporate partner is McDonald's. However, the Palestinians have never called for boycotting McDonald's, to my knowledge, right? I mean, Starbucks, right? Starbucks founder Howard Schultz, right? He is a big pro-Israel guy who's gotten awards from Israel for all of the stuff he does for Israel and stuff, but they have not called for a boycott of Starbucks. There are specific companies that they have listed in their BDS, Boycott, Divestment, Sanctions list. And if people chose to boycott them, I would be okay with that. But you know, if you boycotted every company that had something to do with Israel, you know, if you boycotted every company that had something to do with Israel, you would never shop anywhere, so, you know, and I will say this, and this is just something that I've said for a long time, right? 99% of boycotting does nothing but make the person doing the boycotting feel good about themselves. All right. I am disgusted by moral purity boycotting, you know, where it's like, they're not going to actually change what the company does. They just have this stuck up. Well, I don't shop at Walmart. You know, if you're boycotting, make it a real boycott, which means you protest the stores, which means, you know, the Montgomery bus boycott, that was a real boycott. I mean, people didn't get on those buses for months, right? You know, they shut down the bus system of Montgomery, Alabama. Boycotts, union boycotts, where they have a picket line outside and people don't go in because they don't want to scab on the union. But this moral purity, the list of evil corporations you're not going to buy from, is a liberal, you know, thing, right? Boycotting Coca-Cola, right? You know, has Coca-Cola done very bad things around the world? Absolutely. I know Coca-Cola is more pro-Israel than Pepsi is, to the point that, from what I understand, some hardcore Zionists only drink Coke and boycott Pepsi. But I drink Coke. You all know that. You know, because I don't see the Coke boycott as a real boycott, right? A real boycott means that you mobilize lots of people to really shut something down. But the whole moral purity, well, we don't drink this product because that's bullshit, right? And it's childish, and it's part of that smug liberal attitude. And it reinforces this idea of, and this is a really common myth, that if everyone was just a moral person, if everyone was just an ethical consumer, there would be no problem with capitalism. Bullshit, right? You know, if everyone was just an ethical consumer who bought fair trade coffee and, ate organic food, there'd be nothing wrong with it. That's bullshit, right? And the ethical consumer crap is really just a big load of moralistic liberal crap. And it's anti-working class, right? Working class people will shop at Walmart. And the reason that they'll shop at Walmart is because Walmart has cheaper prices. And that, like, if you're organizing a real union boycott, you're out there every day with picket signs, you mobilize all kinds of organizations to just shut down this company until you get your way. That's a real boycott. But, people, I don't shop at Starbucks. I drink fair trade coffee because you are not as morally pure as I am, inferior one. I mean, I don't have any time for that. I ain't got time for that. As they say, right? The problem with capitalism is not that working class people don't consume ethically. The problem is production organized for profit. And so, I am not interested in boycott culture that obscures that. But when the Palestinians are themselves specifically asking for these specific companies, don't buy from them, protest them, make their lives miserable, hurt their profits, That I can get down with. Look, the most cringe example of this, I don't know, Peter Coffin made a great video about how the Party of Socialism and Liberation, the PSL, was having its members go to Starbucks and I'd like to order an end to genocide. It was the most cringe thing I've ever seen. You know, and he did this great video just ridiculing PSL for the most cringe, stupid. I would like to order an end to genocide here at Starbucks. Oh my God. Yeah, like, so like I as a consumer, I'm like going to the Starbucks and I'm like telling them in the drive-through window that I would like to order an end to genocide. Oh my God. I mean, it is the most cringe thing I've ever seen. I'll link you the Peter Coffin video. It was brilliant. It was just a brilliant takedown, right? Of like, you know, working class people who have to work at Starbucks to pay their bills are having to listen to a bunch of liberals drive up and snidely tell them to, you know, it's just, you know, it's just cringe, and it's just completely cringe. And it was a great takedown that Peter Coffin did. You know, so yeah, I'll link you. Peter Coffin is brilliant, and he's really funny, and he's been doing a lot of videos lately that are, you know, that are on different topics. And I love Peter Coffin's work, and he does great stuff. He's a great beloved member of our community. We love Peter Coffin and everything he does. And yeah, this is his video about ordering an end to genocide. Annoying regular workers will not win them over. Amen. Amen. Peter Coffin, order an end to genocide. Brilliant video. Yeah, brilliant video from Peter Coffin. Just a brilliant piece. I really enjoyed it. Share it around. You know, wouldn't it be great if PSL like wrote a response? That would be hilarious. That would be awesome. I doubt they will, though. I doubt they will. But there you go. There you go. All righty. That's my. All right. The bulk of the GOP base is petty bourgeois. They are activated against the state in a way they haven't been recently. Where does this lead? Thermidorian purges like Trump promises. Can it be exploited? Well, I don't agree with you that the bulk of the GOP base is petty bourgeois, right? This is, I mean, I'm sorry, but if you go outside of any major city, you are going to find working class people, nurses who work in hospitals. You are going to find, you know, people who work in factories. You're going to find, you know, people who who work in construction. You are going to find people who work in the service sector at stores like Walmart or, you know, or Sam's Club, or, you know, you're going to find fast food workers who support Trump. All right. This idea, and this was a big thing that was promoted, you know, at the time that Trump was running for office. They said, well, the average income of the household of a Trump supporter is $120,000 a year or something like that. So therefore, all Trump supporters are all, you know, small business owners and wealthy people. That's just not true, right? Now, that's the average income, right? There are petty bourgeois elements that support Trump. But, you know, I mean, if you have a family with two well-paid teachers, 2 teachers living there, right? I mean, you know, do the math. I mean, it's, you know, if you've got a family where you've got, you know, I mean, do the math. Okay. Do the math. Like, that's the idea that there are not working class people in the Trump camp. If you've ever been to any conservative area in this country, those areas, I would argue, are largely more working class than the blue states are. You know, in New York City, you have a very big petty bourgeois, and some of them are Trump supporters, but the bulk of the petty bourgeoisie in New York City are liberals, right? You know, you go to any like thriving urban center, you have, you have your lawyers and your doctors, but a lot of those people, most of those people are liberals, but not all of them, right? You know, you do have Trump supporting Wall Street guys, low level Wall Street guys, or, you know, guys who work at a Wall Street firm or something like that, you know, that are Trump supporters. You know, but you go to the South, right? You know, your typical Southern white person is a Trump supporter, right? You're the overwhelming bulk of Southern white people tend to be Trump supporters, and they are overwhelmingly working class. You go to Appalachia, your typical Appalachian is a Trump supporter. Not all, right? The unions are very strong there, and there's a history of union struggle there, and it's complicated, right? And there's a lot of teachers that are very anti-Trump in Appalachia. So it's not universal, but you go to West Virginia, you're going to find a lot of working class people that are Trump supporters, right? This idea that Trump's base are all just middle class people, that's an exaggeration. That's something invented by. It's a way to try to find a way to not have to talk to Trump supporters. And I see that constantly, right? Especially during the Trump years, there was an endless, right? Hispanic and Filipinos are conservatives. Exactly. My aunts in Texas are Republicans. There's an endless amount of how can we not talk to the Trump camp? How can we make a point of just making them bad people, make them the other? Right. And if we can just find a loophole where we just make them bad people, then we don't have to look ourselves in the mirror and say, why has a big chunk of the population never been won over to a leftist message? Why is a big chunk of working class and low income people not interested in what we offer? And that's something that a lot of liberals don't want to do. So yeah, what was the rest of the question though? The rest of the question was the bulk of the GOP base is petty bourgeois. I don't agree with that. They are activated against the state in the way they haven't been recently. Well, that's because of the degrowth stuff, right? The degrowth stuff will crush the petty bourgeois, the small business owner, right? People talked about Ashley Babbitt, how she owned a pool cleaning company and how like the pandemic just destroyed her. Where does this lead? Thermidorian purges like Trump promises. No, I just think this is the division in the ruling class. And it's a fight globally between the rising economies of Russia and China and Venezuela and Iran and the degrowth faction here at home and the future of the petty bourgeois and the working class of America and even the lower levels of the American bourgeois is in an anti-monopoly coalition against the ultra-rich. Right? And that's what I spent this book explaining. Right? Even though, according to classical Marxism, there's not supposed to be any anti-imperialist united front with the ruling class in the first world, according to classical Marxism, there's a big divide in the ruling class. You have the ultra monopolies and you have divisions. And the Communist Party, William Z. Foster came up with the concept of the anti-monopoly coalition. And that Chinese flag, those 5 stars, they stand for the national capitalists, the urban capitalist class, merchants, the peasants, the working class, and the intellectuals. It's like those 5 stars, those 4 stars, the block of 4 great classes. That kind of thinking is kind of applying, right? The working class is going to be the center of any revolutionary movement in the United States and in anywhere else, right? The working class at this point is the majority class in almost every country in the world, the greatest class in history. The working class is going to be at the center of it with their proletarian ideology, but they're going to need allies, right? And this is in the Communist Manifesto. As far back as the Communist Manifesto, Karl Marx says the way the proletariat becomes politically active is because the ruling class brings them into politics to fight their battles for them, right? It's from the Communist Manifesto. And then from there, right, it eventually switches where instead of the working class being the foot soldiers of the capitalist class, instead the capitalists become the allies of the workers. This is in the Communist Manifesto, on the very pages of the Communist Manifesto. He says the way the working class is awakened is by the capitalists using them to fight their battles for them. That's how the working class is awakened. So divisions in the ruling class are essential to everything Marxists talk about. And that's a Trotskyite thing. Trotskyites sit there and they're like, no, independent working class movement. Oh, we don't want to align with any capitalists. And, that's just silly. It's just silliness, right? Historically, when the working class takes power, it comes as the result of many long-lasting strategic alliances with different factions in the ruling class, enabling the working class to set up its own institutions, etc. Right? Eventually, yes, if you're going to have a socialist revolution, the working class becomes the dominant factor in any coalition. But it's a process. And that's one thing I talk about at great length in this book. Is Nick Fuentes a neo-Nazi? I don't really know that much about him. I've heard he says a lot of awful things about Jews. I've heard he's really emphasizes being anti-immigrant and keeping the country white. He sounds like an awful person in everything that I've heard about him. He just sounds like an abominable figure. But to be fair, I haven't listened to his stuff, and I don't believe in cancel culture. But I mean, everything I've seen clips of him before, and I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but they say you haven't tasted a pear until you bit into it. But everything about Nick Fuentes just seems abominable to me, right? I am opposed to demonizing people on the basis of their ethnicity or their race. I don't think there's any reason that we should want America to be white. I don't have any attachment to being white. I am white. There's nothing I can do about that. I'm not ashamed of my being white, but I mean, I don't think that whiteness or being white or white people is the basis of any organizing. And the people who do think that, we all know what they are. They're Nazis. And my understanding is that Nick Fuentes is one of those people that believes that he's going to organize as a white person on behalf of white people. He hates immigrants and he hates Jews and people like that. I mean, is he a literal Nazi? I don't know. I don't care. I don't want anything to do with people like that. Right? I am not interested in any form of ethnic bigotry, racial bigotry. Not interested. Just not interested. Right? I want to work with bringing people of different races and nationalities together. That's what I want to do. I want to bring people from different religious backgrounds together to see their common interest, right? And I do believe that the needs of historically marginalized groups need to be put first. If you're going to have a movement against the police state in the United States, the Black people are going to be at the center of it because they have been the biggest victims of police brutality, right? If you're going to have a movement in this country, against the police state, immigrant communities that get terrorized by ICE, they're going to be at the center of it. I mean, that's one thing, but, I am anyone who's going around talking about, wanting to organize as white people, that's like an alarm bell should go off in your head, right? Immediately. And one thing I pointed out, is that, there is no such thing as a white nation. Right? If you look up the history, you look up what the word nation means, right? And this is one thing. A black nation, yeah, there's a strong argument that the descendants of slaves in the United States, they have a common culture, they live in common areas, they have a common dialect of English, they have a common economy, they have a common, religious background. I mean, you could argue that black people could constitute a nation in this country. But, and Chicano people, you could argue they have a common territory, common language, but white Americans are not a nation, right? I mean, what do we have in common, right? We don't all speak English, right? I'll go introduce you to, I'll take you to Brighton Beach, New York, and I'll introduce you to a bunch of Russian speaking white people. And they are white Americans. They have white privilege, or if that's a thing, right? Or they are treated as white people, but they do not speak English. They speak Russian. I'll take you to Hamtramck, Detroit, in Hamtramck, Michigan. I'll introduce you to a bunch of white Americans who don't speak English and speak Polish, right? I will introduce you to evangelical Christian white Americans in the South. I will introduce you to atheist white Americans in Portland, Oregon. There is nothing that binds white Americans together other than not being Black, brown, Asian, Hispanic, Latino, right? I mean, there are all kinds of people that are white that have nothing in common with me other than that we're both not Black, we're both not Asian, we're both not Hispanic. All the non-white categories, we ain't in it. And that's it. You know what I mean? I mean, there are white people that are completely culturally different than me, don't speak the same language as me, don't have the same religion as me, don't have the same background, live in a different region, that have absolutely nothing in common with me. And in American society, they are white, and so am I. And that goes to show you that whiteness in America it's just a lack of being Black or brown, right? Historically, that's really what it is. In America, people that are Black or brown or Asian are stigmatized. And if you're not stigmatized, you are white. There's even a book called How the Irish Became White, because for a long time, white people didn't include Irish people because they were Catholic and the Irish were not considered to be white. And then there's a whole book, How the Irish Became White. There is no white race. Exactly. There's no such thing as a white person, right? White is a category that has been invented in Western European countries for people that are not stigmatized on the basis of their race. right? That's what it means to be white. And I am white. I am not stigmatized on the basis of my race, right? American society, I've never been stigmatized on the basis of my race. I am in the racial category of people that don't suffer on account of their race. But so I'm technically a white person, but there's no such thing as a white person. There is no white race. There is no white nation. And when people start talking about the white nation or the white race, they're, first of all, delusional. And second of all, they have really bad intentions. Anyone who starts talking about the white race, pretty soon they're denying the Holocaust. Pretty soon they're telling you that Hitler wasn't so bad. Anyone who starts talking about the white race, start walking the other way. That's my advice. And I'll take it or leave it. But someone's talking to you about politics and they suddenly start talking about how they want to organize as white people. They want to do something as whites. Get the hell away from there. That is my advice. Just stay away from them. Just stay away from them. And honestly, I'll just tell you all this. Watch out for reformed Nazis too, because a lot of them aren't reformed. People will come to you and they'll say, oh, I'm not a Nazi anymore. I've seen the light. I'm a socialist now. And be careful. Be very, very careful. All right? Be very, very, very careful. Be very, very careful. That's all I'll say. Watch out for reformed Nazis. Watch out for former Nazis, because a lot of them, I don't know what there are now, but there's something shady going on. Watch out for them, right? Watch out for them. Now that doesn't mean that, I think in order to understand politics, it is necessary to read fascist literature, to understand fascist views, to understand the arguments these people make. And there shouldn't be any stigma on that. I am not one who's in favor of book burning. I am not one who is in favor of, trying to prevent people from hearing certain arguments. I think there's nothing wrong with exploring ideas of people you disagree with. But I got to tell you, like that whole world, right? Anti-Semitism, right? Let me just tell you this. Every anti-Semitic book I have ever read, and I have read some, starts with communism is the most evil thing in the world, and starts repeating all the most over-the-top, ridiculous anti-communist lies. Stalin killed a gajillion Christians and ate their brain, and it's just pages of anti-communism. And once they finish the anti-communist lies, then they say, and did you know that communism was Jewish and all the leaders of communism were Jews? And then from there, it just gets into anti-Semitism. That's every anti-Semitic book I've read. The basis of anti-Semitism is anti-communism. I know around the world that's not true. Around the world, there are people that, have maybe an anti-imperialist view, but buy into some anti-Semitic stuff. But in America, anti-Semites, in Western Europe and in America, anti-Semitism always starts with a huge pile of anti-communist drivel. And then from there goes to, and you can blame all that communism evil on the Jews. And that just tells you right there everything you need to know. That tells you everything you need to know right there. Right. And it tells you who they're appealing to. That tells you what they're trying to achieve. I don't know what more to say about it. Look, anti-Semitism, the other thing about anti-Semitism is that, I think there was some German socialist leader, August Bebel. He said, anti-Semitism is socialism for fools. I think that's a good way of putting it, because, we're on here. I just explained to you in detail about capitalism and exploitation and the tendency of the falling rate of profit. This is all very, very scientific stuff. And there are some people that just can't comprehend that. And so they go, me race not have much money. Him race have all money. Me race beat up him race. My race have all money. That's the way they think. It's like they sit there and their mindset is, me not Jew. Jew have money. Me beat up Jew. Me get money. That's literally what these people think. They have literature that's just lists of famous people who are Jewish, and they're like seething. It's not fair. All these Jewish people are famous. That means, I want my race to be famous. It's just like dumb. It's just dumb shit, right? It's just, it's very, very, very dumb shit. The protocols of the elders of Zion, right? That's the classic anti-Semitic text. You know, and ask anyone who's read it, what is like step one? Step one is like, I believe, enact universal male suffrage. So anyone who promotes the protocols of the elders of Zion, say to them, okay, so you want to get rid of the right to vote. And they'll say, no, I don't want to get rid of that. Well, that's, you know, your book says that's the first step toward the Jewish conspiracy to take over the world is the right to vote. You know, I mean, you read the protocols of the elders of Zion, it basically just says you should have feudalism, that all the efforts to bring down feudalism, all the democratic rights and women being allowed to work outside the home and voting and not having a monarchy is all a big conspiracy from the Jews. And you read that and it's just like, oh, okay, so feudalism is good, right? I mean, you read it, it's a text that basically says feudalism is good. And everything that has gotten rid of feudalism is an evil Jewish plot. And it's like, now do I want to live under feudalism? No, I don't, right? And that's what a lot of this trad Catholic stuff is, right? The Catholic Church was the institution that propped up feudalism, right? And, you know, obviously the Catholic Church has greatly advanced since then, but there's a group of people who are very anti-Semitic who call themselves trad Catholics. And what a lot of them believe is, you know, very anti-Semitic, and they want feudalism. And you talk to them, they want feudalism. Well, I don't want feudalism. Feudalism is not good, right? It was better than slavery. Slavery was better than hunter-gatherer civilization. But, you know, I want socialism. I don't want to go backward toward feudalism. I want to go toward socialism. So, you know, any of that anti-Semitism stuff, any of that white nationalism stuff, just chuck it in the garbage. That's my attitude, right? You know, that's my attitude. And you know, I have learned here's the important thing for you to understand. I'll end this part. Like, that stuff is a trap. Our enemies, do you know why they are so desperate? There's all kinds of YouTube videos and shit trying to tell people that I'm an anti-Semite and that I'm a white nationalist when I'm not, because they want us to be that. They want us to be that. They desperately want us to all be that, because that is a movement that is tainted by a horrendous crime against humanity called the Holocaust. It's tainted by, you know, lynchings and the Ku Klux Klan and black people dangling from trees and mutilated bodies. And if they can put that on us, there's no danger of us ever building a mass movement. And they desperately want to somehow equate those of us who are anti-imperialist and anti-war and in favor of working class unity and socialism. They want to somehow convince people that we're that. So if you start to talk that way, you are helping them, because what we want is so contrary to that. We want to bring people together. We want to empower people of different races and nationalities. We want people to come together and see their common economic interests. What we're doing is completely contrary to that. And that stuff, to the bulk of the human race, is just abominable. And if they can try to direct us in a way that we sound like that or look like that, well, then they don't have to worry about smearing us or suppressing us. We do it to ourselves, right? So my advice is to stay the hell away from any of that stuff, right? That is my advice, right? And I'll just tell you that. So, there you go. There you go. It's interesting. Never known a Roman Catholic Filipino who is trad Cath. Interesting. All righty. There was a video by Fellow Traveler on how centrists enable the right wing. Do you agree that centrism is right wing? What is centrism? I don't know what centrism is. This is something that it's taken me a while to learn. It's taken me a while to learn this, right? And it used to be kind of common knowledge, but throughout the 20th century, we kind of lost this. But now we have to get back to this. We're not left wing. We're not right wing. We're communists. We're anti-imperialists. I guess you could argue that communism is a left-wing movement historically, because it believes in historical progress, because it wants to get to a higher plane, because it seeks to, create a world of more abundance and break down inequality and social hierarchies. So if that's left wing, I guess you could say we're left wing. But when it comes to the left and the right in American politics, we've got no skin in that game. Doesn't matter to us. Right? We have no skin in that game. Now, we may make strategic alliances based on our interests, based on our strategy, and that's fine. Right? It was strategic for the Communist Party to support Roosevelt, a Democrat, who I guess was the left wing in politics during the 1930s, because he was anti-fascist, because he was with the labor movement. But it was also strategic in the early 1930s for the focus of the communists to be on fighting the Social Democrats, because they were the main roadblock to revolution. And they were keeping the working class from standing with the Soviet Union. Right? And that, in the early 1930s, communists fought the left wing. They fought the Social Democrats mainly. And in the late 1930s, they fought the right wing, and they aligned with they fought the fascists, and they fought the right wing. And there might be times where we align with Democrats. There might be time we align with Republicans. We are doing our own thing, and we have no loyalty to, and this is something that a lot of old communists have been doing this their whole life. They've been doing this since the 60s. They just can't figure this out. And, they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but Workers' World, Freedom Road, PSL, Communist Party USA, they can't get out of their heads that in American politics, the way they see it, you have conservatives and liberals. And then communists are the ultra liberals. Nope. Wrong. False. Right? It may have been that way during the Cold War, because during the Cold War, the Democrats were more pro-union. The Democrats were more anti-war. The Democrats wanted to trade with the Soviet Union, but that was based on the situation during the Cold War. We have no loyalty to the left. We have loyalty to our own principles towards socialism, working class solidarity, anti-imperialism. But we have no loyalty toward the left, right? I never want to hear anyone ever say that's right wing again. I don't care if it's right wing. Is it true or false? Don't ever say that's left wing again. Is it true or false? Right? I have endlessly heard people say, you can't say that. That's right wing. Is it true? Is it true? Is it true or is it false? I mean, I don't care if it's right wing, left wing, top, bottom, right? Forward, backward. Is it true or is it false? And in this book, it's funny, I keep pulling this book out, but hey, I mean, I put it all in here. If you want to know what we're all about and why we're trying to do what we're doing, read this book. Read this book. There's a section in this book, and I'm working on the new textbook. I'm going to talk about it in there too. It's an important thing to talk about, right? The Boston Trap. All right, we got a whole section called the Boston Trap. The Boston Trap. So what happened? 1974 in Boston. Right, it's on page 301 of my new book, The Boston Trap. The Boston Trap. 1974 in Boston. They wanted to solve the problem of unequal education. Right? It was true that in the black neighborhoods, the schools were a lot worse than in the white neighborhoods. So they started busing white and black children to different schools to try and make education equal. And it obviously wasn't the answer. I mean, but it was a step, it was a liberal step to try and break down racial inequality in education. And unfortunately, there were a lot of racist white supremacist riots against busing. But there were also a lot of communists who opposed busing as well. There were a lot, like the Black Panthers opposed busing. They wanted separate black schools for black children. The Nation of Islam opposed busing. On that basis, there were some communists who made the mistake of supporting the anti-busing riots because they said busing is kind of a stupid liberal answer. It's not the solution. We need better schools. We don't just want to racially integrate, have forced racial integration of schools with busing. Busing's not the answer. And so on that basis, they supported the racist riots against busing. Well, That was a huge mistake because those racist riots were really ugly. A lot of black school children got murdered in Boston, and, you know, it was really awful. And that was a huge mistake. They should not have supported those riots. They should have said these are racist riots. It's one thing to say busing isn't the answer, but we're not going to support these racist riots. But unfortunately, in Boston in the 70s, there were some communists who, because they didn't want to go along with the left, they had kind of an out of the movement to the masses approach, which was correct. They made the mistake of supporting the racist riots in Boston. Well, that was a mistake. But on the basis of that mistake, and right, they immediately realized they were wrong. They apologized for it. The memo got sent out. Don't be like them. Don't make that mistake. And everywhere it was just, oh my God, how awful that these communists had supported the anti-racist busing riots. And they created this memo among communists that you should never support anything that's labeled right-wing. And that's what I call the Boston trap, because it's bullshit. It's complete bullshit, right? If working people are skeptical of big pharma and the vaccine, I'm not allowed to support them because that's right-wing? No. Right? If working people don't want to have a war with Russia, I'm not allowed to support them because that's right-wing. Right? If working people support Julian Assange, I'm not allowed to support Julian Assange because that's right-wing. Oh, I have to be constantly saying drive out Donald Trump because he's a traitor and he's a Russian agent because Donald Trump is right-wing and I'm loyal to the left wing. This is a trap. Right? And we got to unlearn the Boston trap. Right? I mean, obviously, we would never support racist anti-busing riots, right? We would never support racist riots against school integration. But the lesson of the 70s, you know, the Boston trap, we've got to unlearn that, right? We got to unlearn it. We need to be where the masses of people are. Yes, historically, in the 1970s, the masses of people that were not left-wing, when they were rebelling, when the bulk of the working class was rebelling, you know, when the white working class was rebelling, it tended to be for racist things, etc. That's not the case anymore, right? I don't think that the trucker convoys were racist. I think there may have been racist people involved, but I think that the bulk of those Canadian trucker convoys were just truckers who didn't like the vaccine mandates. And we should go talk to those people and make them communists, right? I mean, you know, I don't think that the Rage Against the War Machine rally is right-wing. I think it's anti-war, included a lot of Republicans, a lot of libertarians, also a lot of socialists, people like Chris Hedges, people like Jimmy Dore. I'm glad that we participated. You know, were some of the people there, quote unquote, right-wing? Sure. But the cause opposing war is not right-wing, right? And that this notion that it is our job to be loyal to all things left-wing and to be fighting against the right wing, that's ancient history, right? Again, might have made sense during the Cold War. Doesn't make sense now. All righty. Do you think that what happened in Capitol Hill is a symptom of the dying empire? I don't know. I mean, it's embarrassing. It's stupid. It's a sign that everything in politics is cheap and commodified, right? Some guys got a job on Capitol Hill and they're like, you know, we could film some really naughty porno here and we could make some extra bucks while we're working as Senate staffers. Yeah. Oh my God. We could make the Capitol Hill porno. I mean, it shows how our politics is being cheapened. It shows how everything is stupid. You know, I don't know if it necessarily, you know, means, you know, it's like, I don't want to say that it's like homosexuality is a disease of a decaying civilization. I'm not saying that, right? I'm sure just because I made this video, somebody's going to accuse me of saying that. I didn't say that. Did not say that, but whatever. But yeah, I mean, in a way that it shows that everything is cheap, everything is fake, you know, that's what it shows, right? It shows that our politics is becoming a joke, right? It shows the Lenin quote about pornographication of politics. That's what it shows, right? That's what it shows. So that's what it shows. So, yeah. All right. Did FDR worsen the Depression? And why is this claimed? Well, ultimately, the only thing that cured the Depression, was the great destruction of the Second World War. The mass destruction. Every major city in Western Europe was destroyed. Every major city in Japan was destroyed. the bulk of China was destroyed. I mean, it was like there was a huge mass episode of destruction in which millions of people died. And that led to a situation where, the United States was at the center of the world as it started rebuilding. And the post-World War II economic expansion was the greatest economic expansion in human history. Roosevelt passed reforms that made life a lot more livable for people during the Depression. He hired a lot of unemployed people to build infrastructure. He created Social Security and unemployment insurance. He did a lot of things that made life better for people. So that was good. But did it, cause the American economy to, he taxed corporate profits. The Keynesian solutions that Roosevelt implemented were not the answer to solve the Great Depression. And in some ways, it could have made the dropping corporate profits, it could have made the problems underlying the Great Depression worse in a way, but it also made the symptoms of the Great Depression much more livable for working people. Yeah, but ultimately, you don't solve a Great Depression with anything but socialism, or I guess mass destruction. A big Great World War is what kind of rebooted the global economy. I've never maintained that Rooseveltian style solutions will solve an economic crisis. Right? The economic crisis is rooted in the failure of capitalism. So there you go. There you go. All right. Anything on Rumble? Nothing on Rumble. All right. Nothing on the Rockfin. So I guess that's our show for tonight. It's been fun. It's been fun. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. I'll be back. Maybe tomorrow, probably not tomorrow, but maybe tomorrow. It just depends how I'm feeling. But I'll definitely be back soon. Reminder to everybody that, very important anti-war rally is coming up. The Defeat the Deep State rally is coming up. That's coming up February 17th. We're going to do a special intervention as CPI. We're doing something special. So, reach out to us if you want to be involved. Join the Center for Political Innovation. We could use more members. There you go. I'll be back. Watch out for the video of the conference. That'll be happening probably tomorrow. So, yeah, be in touch. All right. I'm going to put on the closing music. Surge in the struggle against U.S. imperialism is now emerging throughout the world. Ever since World War II, U.S. imperialism and its followers have been continuously launching wars of aggression. But the people of various countries have been continuously waging revolutionary wars to defeat their aggression. And while the danger of a new world war still exists, and the people of all countries must get prepared, revolution is the main trend in the world today.